İngilizce tur veriyorlar. Her dil için ayrı. Bonjour. Yapının içine giriş buradan.
Okay, quelqu'un?
Okey. Muhteşem. Oh, merci. Oh, inside is very cold.
No.
Wow. Sir, may I ask one question? Is it train tour?
For 1 hour, you just
Walk?
walk,
Yeah.
and after you take the train to go to the common block.
Okay. How many kilometers?
30.
40,
30.
30. Wow. 30.
Yeah.
Wow. Hello. Yürüyüşe başladık. İnanılmaz soğuk yalnız. Bu kadar soğuk olacağını tahmin etmiyordum. Keşke yanıma bir şey alaymışım. Buraya gelirken kocukla gelin. Bunlar ufak vagonlar. Yüzü 75'likmiş. 75'lik toplar. Bu da 105'lik. 25'lik. Abicim burayı nasıl yaptınız ya?
So warning probably at some point in the next 15 to 20 minutes, lights as well briefly. So that happens when we start up our own internal power plant. When we do that, so currently the lights are being lit by the external power network, but when we switch over to our internal power plant, when we switch over from one to the other, the lights go out for about 3 to 4 seconds. So I think we're starting it up today, so if the lights do go out, don't panic. And it will be back on in about 3 to 4 seconds. The emergency lighting stays on, but we prefer to warn people. It avoids the panic, avoids the screams. So if the lights go out, it is planned. Okay, so we find ourselves now in the area we call M1, which is the main munitions store. So here we have basically half the storage capacity of the Hackenberg fort. So if we go back to what we were saying in the exchange station, so the loaded wagons would come into the fort, loaded rail cars, they'd come down this tunnel here, and then they'd be pushed here down this tunnel into this tunnel here. So this is M1. This is what it looks like. It's made up of two parallel tunnels. We're stood here in this tunnel. If you look to your right, you can see it goes on for quite a long time before turning back on itself and coming down the other side. And between the two parallel tunnels, there are 9 separate cells in which different munitions will be stored. So as I said, the loaded wagons would come down here into the tunnel behind us, so they'd be delivered in
Adamın sol tarafında 81'lik hava mühimmatları var. Morun dediği hava.
It's these metallic crates which would then be used for transporting the munitions all the way down the tunnels as far as the actual big guns themselves. You can see here to my left then, that's one of the big metal boxes being loaded onto one of these internal wagons ready to be taken out to the combat block. So at the base of each combat block we also have a munition store. They're all called M2, so each combat block has its own M2, and then behind each gun there's a small sort of emergency store called M3, but here we have half the storage capacity. The numbers you can see here then that represent different calibre of munitions. So down the far end we've got the 135mm shells which look like this. Down on the left over there somewhere they will store the 81mm mortars which are up here to my right. And then in this part
Burası
of the
depolama birimi.
store down
Mühimmatların.
here the 75mm shells which look like this. Now if you look at this picture again here, it shows what this tunnel looked like prior to the start of the Second World War. And then there are a few differences. Obviously over time a few things have happened. The main difference you can perhaps spot down this tunnel is that back in the day there was a continuous wall with metallic doors in front of each of these cells, as is shown here on this diagram. So all this has changed at some point in history. So I'm just going to take a few minutes now to explain what went on here between 1939 and November 1944. So it'll take a few minutes, but I think it's interesting just to understand the timeline of what did go on here at the Hackenberg during that period. So if we start in September 1939, so that's when we have the outbreak of World War II basically, so the declaration by France of the United Kingdom war on Germany, following the German invasion of Poland. And it's at that point then that the full complement of soldiers is mobilised and sent to Hackenberg. So prior to that point only a small number of French soldiers were based here, but there were troops who were trained up for the eventuality of having to occupy these forts. So there were specialist troops trained up in how these fortifications worked. And so early September they're mobilised and sent here, so that by the middle of September the Hackenberg is totally full up and running. Okay, so they're here. What happens then? Well, for quite a long time, you could say not much does happen. So it's the period of time we call the 30 War. So the Germans are quite busy over in the east, and then quite busy up in the north in Scandinavia. And it's only in May 1940 that they take the decision to invade the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium, and to use Belgium finally as the way through to invade France. So you could say, well, what was the point of the Maginot line? That if the Germans did get around the Maginot line, they came through Belgium, hadn't the French imagined that was going to happen? Well, the French had imagined that. The French thought that if we block the direct line of attack into France for the Germans, they'll not try to get through there. We'll force them through Belgium. But the only part of Belgium they'd be able to get through is the northern part of Belgium. The southern part with the Ardennes, it's impassable. So let's force them to go through the northern part of Belgium. Hopefully, so if the Germans invade Belgium, so the French troops will head in there, the British troops hopefully as well. And that way we'll be able to push the Germans back. They won't even set foot on French soil. But the Germans had understood that as well, so what did they do? They went into Belgium, therefore they drew the French troops into Belgium, the British troops as well. And once the French and British troops were well occupied, the Germans headed down through the Ardennes, through the area that the French imagined they would never be able to get through. Once they got through there, basically the door had been left wide open by the French. Once they were into France, all it was really, all that the French could start to do really was to start to discuss an armistice which was signed by the end of June 1940. So what happened here at the Hackenberg? So there was fighting during June 1940, so the Hackenberg was never attacked directly, but there were enemy troops in the area, so the fort was used to fire against them. But as I said, an armistice was signed, the ceasefire came into operation. And as part of the armistice then, the Maginot Line forts were taken into German hands, so the Germans said, we want to take these forts over, so don't blow them up, we want them, we want the contents. We also are going to take the soldiers based here as prisoners of war. So the people based here, 1,000 or so of them, were taken away as prisoners of war. A handful of them were left behind to show the Germans how the fort operated, but the rest headed over to Germany. You could say that the lucky ones then remained as prisoners of war during the Second World War. The less fortunate ones who were born in this area, so in Alsace or in Moselle, were considered to be Germans once more by the Germans. You know, lots of them have been born prior to 1918, when this was part of Germany, and so they were conscripted back into the German army and sent over to the Eastern Front. So you can imagine a lot of people, they started seeing that really well after the Second World War in the houses, so a very modern material. Everything down here operates from electricity, so I think the most practical power source when we're
Kırmızılar masa. Yemek içinmiş. Kenarlarda.
The meals were actually delivered down to the combat blocks where the soldiers were based. So basically they would load the meals up in some of these big cylinders, sort of cylindrical containers, thermally insulated, and they'd take them down using the internal train to the combat blocks. So basically the soldiers based here, they would spend their lives.
Dizaynın tam ortasından şu yerden geçirdikleri şey muhtemelen kablo sistemleri de buradan geçiyor.
So in terms of what they would eat, so it was a reasonable, sort of reasonable menu from what we know from the people who did sort of did serve down here, that they ate relatively well, even if they
Antigron kablo kullanmışlar. Elektrik kablosu nemli. Sıvıya dayanıklı. Muhtemelen siyahlar kirli su gibi olabilir.
This tunnel in the big alcove, so they could keep going for around about 2.5 months with the food rations. It's important as well what they drank. So again, they speak French. It's important. They had wine down here, so we had the wine store down here and had half a litre of wine.
İleride şey varmış, şarap yeri varmış. Şaraplarını da orada tutuyorlarmış.
If however they ran out of wine, out of anything else exciting, what was important as well was, as far as possible, the Maginot Line forts were built with internal water sources. Okay, so in the First World War in Verdun, the forts had to surrender because they're out of water. Here we have two internal water sources, one just around the corner here, 90 metre deep well, and another down the main tunnel.
Su kaynağı varmış bu tünelin içinde. Sularını dipten çıkartıyorlar. Yani sondajla.
You'll see to the left and right as we go down there. You'll see where they would wash the pots and pans, prepare the food, and then we'll head towards the entrance to the path.